Ghana is a low trust environment. You have to adapt to it. It won't adapt to you. What you need to understand about Ghana being a low trust environment, you're going to have people let you down. You're going to have people overpromise, underdeliver. You may have some instances of theft, all of those things. But in order for you to not allow it to frustrate you, you have to appreciate the environment that you're in. Let's keep it in mind. Most people in Ghana are wired to survival. They live hand to mouth every day, and what they work for, they earn, is what they use to eat and feed their families in most cases. Yes, people have jobs, which enables them to have, a steady income, but in the main, it's a hustle. Everybody's hustling. Now, you're coming from an environment as a Westerner, me included, where survival's almost guaranteed, right? Let's be fair. If you really wanted to do nothing with your life, especially in the UK, you could get away with doing nothing in your life, and you'd have some sort of state support that would come in and help you. Job seekers allowance, the universal credit system. I suppose in the US, I don't know much about US, but maybe the food stamps and EBT cards. I don't know what it's for, but please forgive me, I don't know much about the US. But I know in the West in general, there are state support systems that enable the poorest in the country to at least survive. Even to the point where sometimes you get people who purposely don't work in order to receive that state benefit. And when they do work over a certain amount of time, actually the benefit is lower than just sitting at home doing nothing. I had that before when I used to hire people in a particular job in the UK. I tried to hire someone, offered them job, certain amount of hours. They went back, spoke with their family and said, actually, it's not worth it. I'm better off just staying on benefits because it's not much more than me sitting at home doing nothing. You have that safety net that's in place. So you have to appreciate where people are coming from. Another reason why it's a low trust environment is that, I mentioned it before, this is a trade environment. Look, if I show you right, there's a guy getting ready with his hubcaps, right? Early morning, getting ready with his hubcaps to sell, right? So he sourced these hubcaps from somewhere or somebody, and he's now coming to sell. There's another guy here selling kind of engine oil and all this kind of. So it's a trade mentality. And because it's a trade environment, trade mentality, the barriers to entry for that kind of activity are relatively low when you're in the system. It's easy for someone to set up their own hubcap business, or I don't know, importing USB cables and those kind of things, as long as you have the connection and the capital. Connection and capital are two of the most important keys to this system here. Capital gives you access to different levels of society, further up society, and connection gives you access to the value that you can bring. So if you know the supplier network for a particular good that does really well here, you're going to do really well. Yeah, so connections and capital are really important. So the barriers to entry are low. So what that means is, because people are wired towards survival, they don't have a safety net. If you have, let's say, a business and someone gets wind of where your supplier comes from, in Ghana, it's more like you survive. So if you get access to that connect, and business in general, not just Ghana, business in general is kind of cutthroat. So if you get access to the connect and you haven't got it, and you find the money, then you can start your own business. So that's why it's a low trust environment. People don't give up a lot of information without you bringing value to the table. Because when you give up the information, there's always an inherent feeling of a threat of somebody being able to steal or take or whatever. The other thing is that salaries are extremely low here. When you pay people here, they could be living off $80, $100 a month, right? So they have to supplement what they're getting in a very expensive city. This city is extremely expensive. You know, they have to supplement what they're getting by taking a little something from the person they're working for. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's the reality. Okay? So when you come from outside, bearing in mind your currency that you're receiving or earning is between 10 and 20 times, depending on time of currency exchange or the rate and which currency you hold, between 10 or 12 and 20 times the value of the currency here. So you may come here and enjoy yourself and frequent all the spots that resemble the western side of town, but you may not realize it. You may go for dinner with 2 friends and in one sitting earn somebody's whole salary, right? People see that. And don't get it wrong as well. Look, I'm Ghanaian, my wife's Ghanaian, but I stand out, right? I stand out, my wife stand out. You will stand out when you come here. You will look different to everybody else, right? Unless you're willing to blend in, etc. You know, people out here wear secondhand clothes, the general population, right? That is a fact. Unless you're willing to blend in like that, you're going to stand out. And then when you stand out as somebody who holds these currencies and wealth, because people are in a survival mindset, they're not getting something every month, right? They have to account for the possibility that they might not encounter someone like you again for the rest of this month or for the next 2 months. And you might be able to give them twice as much as what they normally get from trading because they feel like you can afford it. As a result, they might try and cheat you. Effectively, you're paying a foreigner tax. And it's not because people are inherently wicked or evil. It's because they're wired to survival. When it comes to survival, the rules are different. They're not as, how do I say? They're not as forgiving, right? They're not as forgiving. If you had the language, even if you say have it with a funny accent, right? And that would immediately lower your cost of entry to these markets and situations. But when you don't, and you come from outside, you have an accent, etc., the assumption is that you are surviving, you are more than so, you are thriving. And there's a reason why people don't stay here and get frustrated and what have you. I get frustrated all the time. There's a reason why, because when you come from a system where the rules work, you are able to move forward based on the merits of your own work. You don't have so much nepotism, greed and all those kind of things, because people have a baseline, right? The system provides you a baseline of comfort. Even at the bottom ends of society, the system still provides you a baseline of comfort. That's why the business models here are different. That's why subscription-based services in the main don't work. When they do work, it's for businesses or wealthy families, because people don't know when their next money is coming in, or they have to make their money stretch. So that's why they do top-ups on phones, top-ups with data, all of those kind of things. You see the pattern behavior changes. So, in order to build trust in a low trust environment, you as somebody coming in from outside have to offer a few items or things of value to people that you're dealing with in a low trust environment. If you can be consistent with people, even if they're not consistent with you, you might even have to account for a small loss due to something going missing, right? But if you can be consistent with people, the moment you pull that consistency away, people will fret or panic. So They will be loyal to consistency. Ghanaians, local Ghanaians will be loyal to consistency. They'll be loyal to people who can provide access to opportunity. You know, the low trust environment is particularly prevalent in the general trader mindset, but actually, when you get into the digital side of things, that's where there's a little bit more, there's higher trust. I've seen that with my business, right? Because one element is they have to learn a global standard when it comes to digital tools and digital knowledge and digital learning. There's a lot of businesses emerging now that are exporting the talent, not physically, but, you know, business process outsourcers, those kind of things. And so the standard has to be held to a higher degree. They have skills in the digital space that can be charged for, paid for in dollars. Again, it means there's a certain standard they have to adhere to. If they don't, they lose the opportunity. So in the digital space, you can definitely get more trust. But in the general kind of trader space where people are setting up kiosks to sell things, sometimes just putting it out on the roadside to sell things, all of that, that's the general real environment, you know? So you can be consistent with people. We've had all sorts, like some examples. We've had some examples of kind of like the low trust environment manifesting itself. We've had good suppliers of certain products that we sell and export, mainly my wife's business, be great with us for a couple of years, right? When we were coming back and forth, buying stock, those kind of things, been great with us. And then all of a sudden, orders are slow. Production of orders is slow. There's always an excuse. Oh, madam, this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden you've been waiting 4 months for something you paid up front. And you're saying, hold on, what's going on? Then you find out that somebody else has also started buying, right? So he's raised the prices, not told you, and your stock's going to somebody else. Yes, it's frustrating, but it's also survival. He's now got a supplier, a customer that was willing to pay more. So all of a sudden they take priority because of survival. But how do you adapt? You get another supplier. You have to be flexible. You get another supplier that's willing to give you the quality that you need at the right time, at the right price. So that's what I mean by adapting, because the environment's not going to change. It's going to take a long time to change, right? So when you land on the ground, you may get frustrated by the things, you may feel like you're being cheated, etc., but you need to be ready with the knowledge. I remember when I was first building Kuro and I went out to see some land out in, it was Dawa, so it was kind of towards Adar. And I was, he's a friend of mine now. I was sitting with the agent and he was like, yeah, you know, whatever. I mean, let's say he said 80,000 cities for a plot, and there were big plots there. And because I had Kuro, I turned around and said, well, I can see the average price here is 40,000 cities. He said, huh? How do you like know that? I was like, look, I built this thing. Oh, when is it available? Can I use it? I was like, yeah, you can if you can get it for 40,000 cities. Get it for me for 40,000 cities. And he kind of laughed, smiled, and he's like, yeah, let me look into it, you know? So you have to have that value exchange. You can't come ready to take, and not put something back into the system to enable your terms to be more favorable to you. All right, I'll leave it there. What do you guys think? Can you operate in a low trust environment? It's frustrating as hell. I'll tell you for free. But how do you feel about it? Do you feel like it's something you can do? Let me know in the comments, and let me know if anything else you want to cover in these conversations. Until next time, take care.